Okay, Yaten, welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us for this event. This event is held by buffalospire.com, the distribution arm for Indigenous Media Freedom Alliance. We're so happy you can join us today. I'm Georgiana Austin. I'm the Assistant Director for Indigenous Media Freedom Alliance. Our mission is to advance American Indian rights to be seen and heard through independent media, using our language and culture to create an environment where citizens can control their destiny by making informed decisions. Before I introduce our speaker, Adam Sings in the Timber, I'd like to open this event with a prayer. Dan, would you be willing to offer us a prayer today to start us off?
Sure.
Thank you.
If you all will bear with me. We're gathered today in a positive way, dear God, and we'd like for you to look down upon us and offer us your blessings in going forward with the goals that this organization has set forth. We'd really like to have everyone blessed in their efforts to create media that has meaning and impact for all people. And we're grateful for the day. We're grateful that we're able to come together, and we're grateful that we have this opportunity to learn from each other. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Dan. That's beautiful. So I'd like to go over a few housekeeping items so you know how to participate in today's event. At any time during the webinar, you'll have the opportunity to submit your questions for Adam. So to do so, just type your question into the chat at the bottom in your control panel. And as time allows, Adam will address those questions, and they can during the Q&A session as much as possible. And we are recording this event, this webinar, and we'll share the link after the event so you can refer back to it in case we get into some technical information, and we might need that information later down the road. So now I'd like to introduce Adam, and I have a little bio here that I'd like to read about Adam so we can all get to know him a little better. So Adam is a member of the Crow Nation, a documentary photographer and filmmaker. He studied journalism with a focus on photojournalism at the University of Montana in Missoula. As a graduate of the Freedom Forum's American Indian Journalism Institute, Adam has had photo internships at the Virginia Pilot in Norfolk, Virginia, and the Billings Gazette and Great Falls Tribune in Montana. In October 2007, he attended the Eddie Adams Workshop, an intense 4-day gathering of top photojournalism professionals near New York City. He was also awarded a scholarship as the top student. Adam was born and raised in Montana and is currently living in Berkeley, California. His work has appeared in Indian Country Today, Native Peoples Magazine, the New York Times, USA Today, the Virginian Pilot, the Great Falls Tribune, the Billings Gazette, the Montana Tourism Campaign, and various publications throughout the world. His work has been exhibited at the Paramount Theater in Seattle, the University of Illinois at Chicago, the Trickster Art Gallery, and multiple times at the Harold Washington Library in Chicago. And there's so much more to that, I'm sure. And so just to help me welcome Adam today, you can just give me an applause. Yay! Welcome, Adam.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Bio?
Is that from my website?
Yeah, it's from your website.
Okay. I have to update that. It's a bit old, but yeah. That's
cool.
Well, thank you. Well, no, the one thing that I need to put on there is our exhibition currently at the Field Museum in Chicago, which I feel like is a big deal because it was curated by Crow people and mostly Crow stuff. A lot of us Crow artists are like featured in it. I have, I think, 28 or something like that portraits on display right now at the Field Museum. So at least for us, I feel like that was a big deal. So I got to add that at some point up to my website. That's all. So you didn't miss anything. I missed putting that in there.
Oh, that's neat. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
So Adam, you've been contributing video content to buffalospire.com for a few months now. And one of those videos that we asked you to help produce was how to shoot a short video on your phone. And I'll include a link to that YouTube video in case anyone hasn't had a chance to look at it. So my question for you was, it's a 13-minute video. What was the purpose of the video besides Buffalo's Fire asking you to create it? But and how do you want people to use this to tell their stories?
Yeah, I think the purpose was to encourage other Native people, to journalists or whatever, to tell our own stories. You know, I feel like as a photographer, a documentarian, I like the saying that I hear the most is taking our narrative back, and just us telling our own stories from our perspective, because I personally feel like we tell our stories better than anyone else. And I think a lot of us currently have the tools to do that, especially, you know, with a simple smartphone. Like, you know, there are tons of how-to videos, and I could have done a how-to video on like using like the mirrorless camera that I used, but I feel like we all have a cell phone in our, you know, always on us, and if we can utilize that to the as much as, well, let's see, how do I word this? There's so much like cell phones or smartphones can do, and we can use those tools to document ourselves as Native people here in the United States and all over the world. And so I hopefully encourage, you know, the Native people who are watching this or who watch that video to not think that they need like the biggest cameras to tell stories, because, you know, like 200 years ago, people told stories just by drawing pictures on a buffalo robe. There's so many ways to effectively tell a story, and I think smartphones are a way to do that. So yeah, so I shot, I think, one story so far for Buffalo's Fire on my phone, and then I did for the how-to video. I shot it mostly on my Fujifilm camera, but I have the example in there, which I shot on my phone too. So it kind of like blended the two in that video, the how-to video. But that's kind of the, I guess, why I was like, yes, I would do it, was because we need to continue to tell our own stories, because obviously I feel like, again, to not to be a broken record, but we are better equipped to tell our own stories and communicate with our own voices in a way I think that's more effective. And then what was the second part?
The second part of the question was, excuse me. Well, I guess you basically answered it, but what type of stories do you like to tell and why? And you've kind of lent to that, but if you could elaborate a little more on that, that'd be great.
Sure. Yeah. So obviously, as a Native person, whether it's photography or video or filmmaking, I prefer to photograph Native people doing what we do. And for me, at least, a big part of the type of stories that I like to tell, to capture, to make photos of, are stories that are uplifting, that are positive. You know, like I could go and I could do stories where there's like sadness, you know, like missing and murdering Indigenous women. While we need those, I like to focus on things that uplift people, but also educational. And so, yeah, that's kind of just how I go about working on stuff. Is I want to inform other Natives mostly. Like I feel like my audience is other Native people. I know that a lot of people probably want to educate non-Natives, but the way that I look at my work whenever I produce it, whether it's videos or photos or even just for my Instagram, I'm making photos for Native people. One, to uplift everyone, hopefully, to like make us proud of who we are. And then the secondary would be for non-Native people, to educate them about us as people, that we're not stuck in the past. You know, there's always people talking about, if you Google Native American, the first things that come up are like Edward Curtis photos or old black and white photos, and so we're seen as in the past rather than today. And so I just want to continue to, I wouldn't say fight against that concept, but I try to work to put us continually in a modern setting. Like for me, I almost entirely photograph in color. I really don't photograph too much in black and white as it pertains to Native people, because I feel like we're a colorful people anyways, and I feel like that may brings us a little bit back into to the modern times. And so that's kind of my goals when I'm making photos and video stories.
Great, thank you. So since we have such a small group of people on this call, how about as people are asking questions, why don't we preface your question with just a little introduction? Tell us about who you are, what you're working on, maybe why you jumped on the call today, and then ask your question. So I'll go ahead and leave it open to anyone who wants to start us off.
I see a chat question if you want to like just throw it out there.
Sure. Looks like Charles and Boots Kennedy, I know him as Boots, has a question, and he wants to know what are some ways to be respectful.
Yeah, for me at least, when I'm working with these type of stories, I feel in my head, at least I try to think of how I would be respectful around the elders in my tribe. And so that's kind of what I tend to do when I'm working with within these native communities. And I try to never go in with like a sense of like I know something about, you know, an aspect that I'm kind of covering or photographing. And I guess an example of that would be, you know, I've filmed and I've photographed a few fires in California, and then when I was interning. And so I've learned stuff like that. But in one way that I'm respectful, at least, is I would never say like, oh yeah, I know what I'm doing. Like I've done this before. I never do that. I try to like, even if I know it and they're just repeating it to me, I defer to them and I let them continue to teach me. And I never, even if I know something, I don't like pretend like I don't like seem like I don't know anything, but I am respectful of just listening. And I think that's one of the things that I try to do the most is I listen. I listen to what everyone has to say to me. And if I feel like I need to, you know, give a like talk about some stuff, then I do. But I think for the most part, being respectful, listening, and deferring to everyone else's expertise. Because if it's a story, I mean, my expertise is cameras, right? My expertise is nothing else, right? And so I always, in a way that seems like I'm being respectful and honoring the knowledge that these people that I'm working with or I'm covering, that they feel like it's valued. And I just listen, I respectfully like nod, and I kind of just do stuff like that. I defer, like I almost think like, because I don't know how to say this, but like I don't know anything, right? Even if I do, and I try to like show that out there. And I just, again, I think of it in a way that how would I be respectful to like my grandparents? And that's how I do it. You know, I don't like, I would never like tell my grandparents what to do, or like I know this or anything like that. And so that's kind of one of the ways I do. And then I always just like ask permission for things too. Like, can I go over here? Like, especially like things that are even just safety, like some of the fires that I've been on. I'm like, can I do this? Is this okay? And so I'm constantly asking questions. I'm never demanding, you know, like I try, you know, never to think about being like a Karen, right? Like I don't ever want to be like that. And I think that's just how I go about my life, is being courteous and respectful to people. And so that's like just practice for when I'm working on stories, you know, like I know we all have to wear masks right now, but if you, even if it's like I smile a lot when I'm talking to someone, and I nod, I'm just trying to show that I'm just very respectful in a way that's like, I'm trying to be kind to people in the hopes that they'll be kind to me. And normally they are. Like I've never had like a bad experience when I'm working on any stories, but it's just me trying to not be intimidating. And I'm not like, you know, I guess I'm a big guy, you know, I'm a big brown guy. I'm, you know, like I'm not like buff, but I also try to like play that down too, because I already feel like there's a possibility for me as a male to kind of appear intimidating. So I also try to not be that. And I feel like people just open up a little bit more, they're relaxed. And so again, I think I just try to do my best to make a calm, relaxing atmosphere that I exude in some way, so that it like helps other people kind of relax too, and just kind of go with the flow. And then one of the cool things about working in Indian country basically is we all kind of have like a shared experience growing up, you know, living on the res or living off res, but going to the res. We all kind of have the, like there are these similarities in how we've grown up. And so sometimes I tap into that, and that also helps like help people to like let their guard down a little bit, and it humanizes me a little bit more. And so that's also just things I've learned in school and like internships, is like to humanize myself. Like I'm not like the camera is just a tool, but I'm the person, and that's how I really try to make my stories, is like it's a tool, but I'm a human being, and I want you to know that I respect you and that I'm not just stealing or taking something from you. And that's kind of just some of the little ethics that I've just always done. So I hope that answers the question. I don't know.
So I have a follow-up question to that.
Yeah.
You talked a little bit more about the technical parts of shooting on video on your phone.
Yeah.
What has been like one challenge you found in shooting video on your phone? What is one challenge that you found in the field?
Yeah, I think the challenging, the one thing that I still kind of tweak when I do it is audio, is trying to get the best audio. Because, you know, if you get the dongles right and get them into the phone, then you know, that's just my challenging part. So that's why I try through in those different microphones. And yeah, like with my other, you know, when I have my mirrorless set up, I have like a Marantz, like an old school Marantz that I've used for God, 15 years. It's falling apart, and I'll probably like upgrade to a different one. But that's what I use the most part when I'm you know, capturing audio for interviews. But that's just one of the things that I find to be a little bit of a challenge, is how to get the best audio, especially when it comes to interviews. So that's why I do use like the Rode mic a little bit more, and I really put it on there. And when I'm interviewing though, it doesn't really fit well on a gimbal. So I have to like either use a tripod or just really hold still. But with that, I don't have like, I feel like I kind of get away with it, at least with my stuff, because I'm not always on the person being interviewed. Like they're not always on screen, so that if there's a lot of shake from me holding it, it's not as apparent in the filmmaking. So then I'm focused more on just what they're saying, and then just have their faces kind of come in here and there, just to remind us who is talking. But definitely audio is something that I'm still trying to get the best out of using with my phone. And I've been looking into more like Bluetooth microphones. I tried to interview once with these, right? And with Filmic Pro, and the lady that I started filming, she couldn't really do it because she could hear herself talking. And so that didn't work. So I'm still just trying to figure out better ways. Like I think using a Rode microphone, one of those like little ones, it works well, but I feel like I can still find better ways. And so I feel like I'm constantly trying to problem solve these things, almost from a technical engineering sort of standpoint. Is always trying to figure out, well, how do I make this better next time? Not saying that my video is like perfect yet, but for the most part right now, it's trying to get the best audio that I can with my smartphone. But I'm getting there, and I will continue to update and let everyone know like what I found. Yeah.
Great. So Rebecca had a question in the chat. She said, she asked, do you have any good short exercises for kids college age to get them a taste of documentary on their phone? And do you have any editing software that you would recommend?
Yeah, you know, like I use both Premiere Pro and also Premiere Rush on my phone. When I am shooting with my phone though, when I'm done making like all the video, I'm done capturing it, I actually will AirDrop from my iPhone to my Mac. And I know that not everyone uses iPhones and Macs, but then I just AirDrop it and I edit it in Premiere Pro. And I know that you like students can get a discount of like $10, I think, a month for Premiere Pro. And that would also include Premiere Rush on your phone. And so occasionally I also edit on my phone as much as when I have to. If it's not something I have to have out right away, then I would use my computer. But Premiere Rush seems to be pretty good. There's some stuff that, you know, it's got a little bit of a learning curve. It's much easier to use than Premiere Pro. The other thing too is you can actually, what I've done before too is start editing on your phone, and you can finish editing on your computer, like if it goes into the cloud. So I've done that a few times in the past, where I would edit a little bit on my phone to get started, and then when I get back to my computer, then I would finish it on my laptop. But as for exercises, I feel like it's just, you know, I feel like I'm not really good at teaching people how to do video who have never done it before, I think. But what I think what I would do is ask them to come up with a story idea, something they could tell in a minute. But also, before we start that, to look at some of those 1-minute videos. Like I see them on Instagram. I can't recall who does them, but they're like 1-minute videos, right? And there are a few of those. And I feel like if you start, that's like step one, would be to like kind of absorb that style of storytelling, and then to think about how to do it. You know, for me, I'm the kind of person who reads instructions and like maps things out before I do them. Sometimes I don't, but for me, I like to like have an idea of what I'm going to do. And so I would almost view some of those as a way to tell a story. Oh, here's something I just thought of. When I was in school, I took a media arts class, and it wasn't even journalism, but it was just like a media arts class. And it's where we learned how to use, what's the other one? So there's Premiere Pro, and the other one, Final Cut, right? And what they did in one of those classes was we had to make a trailer, right? And they gave us all these different clips to work with. We all had the same thing, and we just had to make like a 30-second, 60-second trailer. So maybe one of the exercises that one could do for kids or even college age who have never had that experience, just to kind of get down to like working on something, would be, so what I would do is I would go and I would have all the footage, and I would give them all the clips, and I would give them like the audio sound bites within the clips. And I would say, okay, here's what you have to work with. Just kind of put it all together. And there's no right way. It's just how you would interpret and tell a story. And so that's one idea that I think could be helpful, rather than getting out there and just like shooting right away, but giving them a sense of how to at least construct a story with some of the elements that you might have you could give them. And that's like, yeah, that's like a good introduction. And then maybe get into actually going to make videos. Like, hey, remember when we did this in class? So I want you to think about that. Now this is me talking, like if I had students, I want you to think about that, what you did, and making those kind of clips so that you can tell an effective story with your own voice and your own like vision. And so I think that might be something to think about and consider when working with people who have never done this before, is like just give them the experience of how to construct a story, and then give them the visuals to do that. Yeah, that helps.
Neat. That's good. It's really good feedback and some great ideas. So Francilla had a question. She asked, what are some ideas on how she can get funding to purchase some of the extra equipment for her phone?
Funding. Yeah, I don't, I think that for me, I just kind of like do work, and then I like, oh, I think I need this. And so I've like just kind of pieced things together over the last few years, and I like eBay. I like finding things that aren't super like, that are a generation or two past. Like I know a lot of people ask me like, hey, what kind of camera should I get? And to be honest with you, I don't really have any idea about like modern cameras, really. Like I don't focus, no pun intended, I don't focus on on gear. I found right now I'm using an X Pro 2 by Fujifilm, and I've been using that since it came out in 2017. And so whenever someone says, hey, what should I get? Should I get so I shoot Fujifilm now. I used to shoot Canon and I switched to Fujifilm. People will be like, should I get this, this, and this? And they'll always say it's like the latest model of a camera. Like right now it's the X-T4. And like they're brand new and they want to like get brand new things and brand new everything. And I'm like, pump the brakes a little bit. Those are all really great tools, but are you at that level where you can use that tool yet? If not, get an X-T3, X-T2, a couple of generations, in the past. One, they're cheaper. For the most part, it's because they're cheaper and they're pretty much good enough, right? As for funding, I feel like I've gotten a few like fellowships, and I use some of that money to get some gear. I think it's just looking at like fellowships or like tribal funding. Maybe if you can approach your tribe. I know that crowdsourcing is kind of an in thing right now. Like I broke one of my cameras a few months ago, and I didn't crowdfund for it, but I said, hey, I have an Etsy store and I broke my camera. Can you, if you want some of my little work, it'd be cool if you went to that. And then people just said, hey, I don't need anything right now, but here's $100 if for your camera. So that's one of the ways. I mean, I don't feel at times, I don't personally like approach other people for like funding. I'm just not that comfortable with it. So I don't have a good, it's like a good answer for that. I don't think. I just try to find what I can here and there. And when I get a job that I like, I get some work, and then I think about investing some of that money into like a new microphone or something that'll help me like tell stories better. But that's that kind of answers it. So I'm sorry if it's not too helpful, but that's a little bit.
Cool. Does anyone want to ask a question?
Oh, Boots has another question. What kind of stories can I do in my community? I think, at least for me, I think whatever story that you think is important that needs to be told. I don't, like, again, if you want, I don't want to say they're easy, but like there are hit and miss sort of stories, which are like the hot topics of the day, like water, MMIW, things that are really tug at people's heartstrings. Those are stories that need to be told. I'm not a huge fan of telling sad stories, just because I'm an empathetic person, right? And those make me sad, and I try not to be sad in my life. But I know that they're there. And like an example of that is a few years ago, I photographed a MMIW march in Seattle, right? And I got there, and it was before the march started. The ladies, like, there were families talking about their missing ones, and it like got me so much, and I couldn't make photos. Like I couldn't for like a good 20 minutes. I was just in a state of where I couldn't do anything. But then I got past it and I made some photos. And so like, if I don't have to do it, if there's someone else to tell a story, it's just one of the ways that I try to keep my mental health kind of going, is not telling sad stories. But good stories too, like graduation, like graduation stuff, like little 1-minute video stories of like someone graduating, like a student who did really well and they're doing all these honors, and letting them speak. So when I make photos or videos, I don't, at least, and it's just for me, is I don't like try to go, this is an Adam Singleton timber photo. Like, look at me, I'm such a good photographer, I'm such a good this. I always just tell myself that I'm making photos to uplift the person that I'm photographing, or I'm helping this person like feel better about them, or I'm bringing attention to something that other people should be proud of amongst their people. So then, yeah, those are some of the things that I would do. I'm not saying that you shouldn't or this, but just find what you're comfortable doing in your community, and like, oh, I could do a video story about that, or I could make some photos and a photo essay or something like that. So that's, you know, that's one of the things. Okay, so oh, Princella, you had another question. That's a good question too. I use eBay here and there, but I also use like the used departments in B&H Photo, Adorama, and there's another website called keh.com. They mostly do film cameras, but they also have some digital. I use KEH because I shoot film like a lot. Like I shoot film like all the time. So I use KEH, and I use Adorama and B&H use websites. And I really think that using those two, B&H and Adorama, is a good idea. It's actually a little bit better than eBay, but like because they have a little bit of a warranty, right? They give you like a 30 or 90-day warranty, where eBay, you buy it, and unless it's from like a big shop anyways, you're not going to get any warranty. So eBay is great, but you know, be cautious with eBay. Whereas B&H, if you get something and it's broken, you're like, hey, this is broken, they'll take it back and you can get your money back, you can get credit, you can get a replacement. So definitely the used departments on some of these big camera stores are great to peruse too. And if it's not like something you need right away, to like kind of come back and, you know, go back and forth and looking at that. So that's one of the ways. That's another place that I would say.
Cool. Yeah, Peyton had another question.
Yeah.
She wanted to know, what project are you most proud of thus far in your career?
You know, I think in the beginning of my career, I did an audio slideshow about meth on my reservation. And I think just putting a voice to the people who were in it, I think was something that I was proud of, because I covered it for my people and they were like, you know, I felt like it didn't make anybody mad that, you know, it didn't make anyone mad at home that I did a story on meth on my people. So that was cool in itself. But currently, you know, like I'm really proud of the Ohlone Cafe story that I just did for Buffalo's Fire. I'm proud of that. But I think one of the things that I'm proud of right now the most is the portrait project that I've been working on for a few years called Indigenizing Colonized Spaces. Yeah, you know, it's like I was never really a portrait photographer before, but I really enjoy that project. One, because I get to uplift Native women the most, because that's who I photograph, and that's for some whatever reason, women are the ones who reach out to me to like, hey, photograph me in my jingle dress or my fancy, you know, like maybe men must be just more reserved and shy. I don't know, but yeah, I feel like that's one that I'm proud of, mainly because of the reaction of the people that I photographed. You know, one of the people that I photographed recently in San Francisco, well, across the bay from San Francisco, I made photos of her and I would send her some, and I could just tell, like, she's like, that's, you know, she's like, that's me. And she would just feel really proud of herself. And so I feel like uplifting that one person with some of my photos it just makes me feel really good about myself. You know, like I'm doing something good with my camera, right? I'm making a difference even on an individual basis, and I really like that. And I feel like a lot of people have connected with that portrait project. So yeah, that's like a personal project for me, I guess. You know, it's not like a photoshopped sort of portrait project. It's not, you know, I don't know how journalistic it is, other than I'm documenting these people. You know, I'm making portraits of them, but I'm not like giving them things to wear or telling them how to stand. I'm not asking them to model for me. Like, I don't work with models, I'm working with real people. And a part of it is a little bit maybe Edward Curtis like, but in a more honest way, I think. I don't know. But yeah, so those are the kind of things I'm happy about right now with my work.
Wow, neat. Sky had a question actually, may actually relate to the project that you just referred to. Were there any media organizations or Native organizations that were helpful to you in your career?
Yeah, the American Indian Journalism Institute, the AIJI. I'm not sure if it's still around. I think it is. But that was really what made me go, this is what I want to do with my life. I want to be a documentary photographer. I want to be a photojournalist. Like when I was in school, my goal was just to be a daily newspaper photographer, right? That's what I wanted. Like my favorite thing in school was interning. Like every summer I got to intern for a paper, and that was great. But yeah, AIJI, that was one of the best. Naja was cool. I don't know anything about that anymore. I took a break though for 8 years to be a stay-at-home dad. And it's only recently in the last few years have I started to be more of a photographer again. So I was out of the game for a bit, and now I'm just trying to definitely get back into it. And I think one of the things that really helped me was finding mentors, people who took an interest in my work and would critique my work. And I felt that finding a mentor, or as many mentors as you can, is one of the smartest things a person can do in this field, at least in the photojournalism field, to critique the work that you've produced, and not to like say this is what you did wrong, but to like work with you and like tell you what you did right and what you could try next time. So yeah, if you can get some mentors, I really think that it would really help you grow just as a storyteller. Like, like I learned from a few Pulitzer Prize winner photographers, and they're cool, laid back people. They're not really hardcore. I remember like 2 summers ago, I was working on my portrait project in Chicago, and I had met John White at the Eddie Adams Institute, and he critiqued my portfolio. And he had always been like, from college, he was my favorite photographer, because there have been a lot of Pulitzer Prize winning photographers, in the world, but with his, people were smiling in his winning photo project, which I really liked. I liked smiling people, especially smiling people of color, right? And so he's like my favorite photographer. And I met him. He critiqued my portfolio, and he did it in a kind, respectful way that really resonated with me. He wasn't like, oh, this one's bad, but no, he was really kind about it. And then I was just working on a project in downtown Chicago. I was photographing my friend Michelle Reed. I don't know if you know who she is. She's an amazing artist in her own right. But I just like, that's John White down the street. And I literally had like a fanboy moment. And I don't really get fanboyish about anyone, but for that one person, I was. And it was just a cool thing. And but he had critiqued my stuff. He remembered me, and yeah, that was just something. And so if you can get some mentors who you value and who value you, I think that is what will really help your career. Not like getting you a job, like oh, like I'm gonna get you a job here, but no, like helping you grow as an image maker, or as a writer, or as anything. That's the kind of mentors that I think are valuable, and that have helped me really become the photographer that I am, is the mentors that I've had. And then yeah, this AIGI, that's where it started for me, and I never looked back, and I fell in love with being a photojournalist.
Wow. Sky had another question, and this is about navigating the area of multimedia storytelling when it involves with distribution of contracts, work, contracts, releases, the not so fun part of storytelling. How do you navigate that area of storytelling?
Yeah, I think just for me, I do my best to retain all my copyright. Like I own all my photos. And that way, because I also get like, sometimes I don't have assignments, but people contact me to license my work for whatever reason. And like if you're making portraits of someone and you like think, hey, this is maybe something I could license down the road, maybe have some model releases, just so you can have those on hand. Like today, you can like, for me, I can find people pretty easily. Like, hey, someone wants to license this. This is cool. Can I get you to get a model release just in case? Most people are pretty cool about that. I'm like, I'll give you a print, and prints are pretty cheap to produce. So that's one of the ways. But also, like in school, we took a journalism law class, and just it's the business side of it, is learning a little bit more about contracts, whether it's via Google or some other places online, but just trying to educate yourself on what copyright law is, and what contracting is, and then day rates and stuff like that. And the other thing too is I feel like just in general, artists, whether you're a photographer or whatever, we tend to undervalue our work, and I do that all the time. I daily try to get out of the habit of undervaluing my work, just because people are like, hey, I'll give you credit, like, can I use this photo? I'll give you credit. And I never like say, yes, you can use my photo if you give me photo credit. So if you're a photographer or whatever, don't work for credit. Say you either pay me or you don't use my work. Sometimes, because like credit doesn't feed you. It doesn't feed your family. It doesn't. It's rare that you even get another job from it. So don't do credit. And yeah, so yeah, if you don't really know a lot about contracts, I feel like maybe like one of these Zoom recordings, if we could find someone who is good with like that, like lawyers, like a contract lawyer, someone who would be willing to talk to us. That's one thing that I didn't know a lot about in my career beginning, was contracts and licensing stuff, and I've kind of had to like figure it out. But yeah, I guess one of the things, don't undervalue your work. Like just get what you can get for it, as much as you can get for some of your work.
Great. Those are really good answers. Do we have any other questions from anyone out there? I think, Dan, you had a technical question, maybe? We talked a little bit before, and you mentioned something about, oh, go ahead. I'll let you ask your question.
Oh, okay. Well, thinking about using a smartphone, one of the challenges that comes to mind immediately is getting your video off that phone and into your editor.
Yeah.
And earlier on, you were talking about using the Apple facilities to do that. Well, like you mentioned as well, is not all of us have Apple. So what techniques have you used to get the video off your phone?
Yeah, I do that, definitely AirDrop, but I also just a cord, like from my phone to my computer, and uploading or saving it that way. I don't know how PCs and Androids work, but I feel like if there's not a way for you to like just stick a cord between the two and transfer, there's got to be a way to do that. Maybe some YouTube, but that's how I do it, is either AirDrop or just a cord, and it goes into Lightroom. Like whenever I put my phone and I open Lightroom, it like automatically tries to pull every photo and video from my phone. And I use Lightroom a lot because I love the cataloging system. I know there are faster editing for photos, at least programs, but I've been using Lightroom since day one, and I really like their cataloging system. But I don't know, have you tried the phone into just a computer via a cord, like a USB cord?
Oh, well, I've used a variety of methods.
Okay.
I was just curious about what you found to be easier. There, a lot of them, they're cumbersome.
Yeah.
If you lose the
Yeah.
cord that fits, then what do you do?
Yeah. I mean,
It's not like you can just pull the SD card out of the phone. So it's a variety of ways that work, but anything that strikes you as the easiest.
yeah, I mean, for me, airdropping, that is the easiest thing for me to do. Like I get to my computer, I just airdrop all the files that I want to my computer, and they go there. Sometimes it takes a little bit, because currently whenever I shoot on my phone, I'm shooting in 4K right now. But yeah, that's what's the easiest for me, is literally just airdropping my files from my phone to my computer. And then from there, I organize it in such a way in the Finder and in different folders. That's my sort of process is my workflow is airdropping most stuff.
Neat. Well, I have a question, and I also have a comment about your answer. So the over the weekend, I shot a video and I recorded in 4K, and I basically uploaded to the Google Photos, and then I downloaded to my computer from Google Photos. So I just used the cloud to do that. And that seemed to work pretty well considering like the short videos that I was working with. I could see it being a bit problematic if I was shooting longer videos. But that would definitely probably be a case where I would use a cord then and plug it into my phone. But one of the challenges that I had over the weekend when I was shooting was I did take your recommendation to get the Rode mic, and I picked one up, and it was the wireless one, which was really nice. But I noticed that the transmitter that was on my phone didn't fit any ports. So I don't know if is there an adapter then that goes from that port from the transmitter to your phone, or is there a audio equipment out there that connects Bluetooth wise?
Which mic did you use? Like which particular mic?
I can't remember what it was called.
Okay, because if it was the ones that I had in my video, the micros, one like they come with both one with a like a headphone jack, like just like old school headphone jack, but then there's new ones that come with a fire, like with the little fire jack, because that you charge, because our new iPhones don't have that cool jack anymore.
Yeah.
But it was a wireless one. Which one? That because I haven't worked with the wireless on my phone yet. That's why I'm curious, because I don't know actually. But I could figure. I feel like I can figure things out and troubleshoot stuff, and I do that a lot, which is how I work. Is like just trying to figure something out and making it work the best. But yeah, I've never used a Bluetooth microphone yet with my phone, just because I haven't found one that I feel is cheap enough yet, or that works well enough yet. But yeah, the other thing too is I know it would be hard to do in Rush, but if you could get like a like a wireless lapel or something, and like an external audio recorder, because that's how I learned audio in school was for like audio slideshow, was recording on an external recorder, and then throwing those sound bites over a slideshow of just still photos. And that's because I went to journalism school, and we transitioned from film to digital while I was in school. And then I'm sorry, it's really loud here because of thing. So hopefully you can hear me. And then we said, like, hey, we need to like start doing video because people want video on their websites. So I come from a background that's different than say a broadcast journalist who start working with video right away. So I think that's the difference between me and a lot of others and some other video journalists is I'm primarily a still photographer, and that's how I compose my videos is from a still photography aesthetic, and that's how we did our audio in the first place, was using an external microphone to capture audio. And like back in the day when filmmaking, like when people made movies, I think still today, is like there's an external audio person and then there's a video camera, and then they would sync it together in post. And I think if you could learn how to do that, or we could, I could give tips on how to do that in a different video, or we could talk more about that on how to get the best audio. Because people have been doing that since the beginning of when they had audio in videos, was audio from a separate source, and then they would like overdub it. Like I know, so yeah, there's so much audio that could be done, and I'm an audio person just because I was a musician before I became a photographer, so I use my ears a lot when I'm like thinking about when I'm making anything. But yeah, so I feel like we could figure that out, you and I, George, to get there. If we like just like look through it and like, oh, maybe try this, try that, because because I do like troubleshooting, and I do like figuring things out, because I'm like, oh, maybe that'll work for me, you know. Yeah.
Great. Oh, Priscilla wants to know what AirDrop is exactly.
Oh, so AirDrop is on a Mac. I don't know, not everyone has Macs and Apple stuff, but you can basically via Wi-Fi, you can like you can cross drop things from Macs to iPads and iPhones. I know like Apple is not always the best; they're kind of the devil, like Amazon and stuff. But it's a helpful tool, you know. So what I use AirDrop all the time. Like I will edit photos on Lightroom on my Mac, and then I will AirDrop them to my phone. And all it is basically, yeah, let's see if I can figure this out. All right, so I took a picture of myself today on a tractor. I learned how to drive a tractor today. So I would click on that, and then if you do you have an iPhone, Priscilla? Yes or no? Yes. Okay. So if you go into this little right, just right there. So hit that little arrow up, and it gives you all these different, like, so like you can text that, but also there gives you that little thing on the, let's see, right there, AirDrop, or AirDrop it to my MacBook. And that's all I would do. I would just hit that, and it goes to the thing, and it uploads to my download folder. And then as far as Finder, if you have a newer computer and you open Finder, on the left side of Finder, you'll see like all those like applications, movies, desktop, music, all those. But sometimes there's an AirDrop, and if you just click on AirDrop, you will see like I know like I'm sharing my screen, but I can see my phone right now via AirDrop. And all it is just taking files like video files or photo files from your Mac to your iPhone or vice versa. And that's how I do it. I just like drop it. Basically, it's literally like just almost airdropping it onto my Mac from my iPhone. It's fairly simple. I mean, I'm sure there are some YouTube videos, but yeah, it's really simple, and it's very convenient.
Cool. So Boots had a question. He wants to know how he can learn more about video editing.
I think, you know, YouTube videos, like how to, you know, like YouTube has so many great video stuff, editing. I don't really ever like, for me, I don't have like content creators in mind. Like if I'm running into a problem, I just go to YouTube and I search that problem. Like, how do I do this? One thing, when I was working with students in Chicago, I got this book for kids on how to make films, and I really liked it a lot, and I think it would work well for just grown-ups. Let me see if I can find which one it was. There's so many. Wow, there's so many like that are in there. Oh yeah, this is the one. So, oh, it's on eBay now. Apparently, it's on eBay. But it's called How to Make a Movie, and I bought it for my son, and he likes it. I bought it for a bunch of my students, and it goes into all sorts of different things about like, you know, like screenplays and whatnot. So I find reading is a good way to like just have a good idea. Like I said, I like instructions. I like picturing things in my head. So, and then yeah, when it comes to video editing, also, if you do like subscribe to Adobe, I think they give you tutorials for free. Well, not for free. I mean, they're included in what you subscribe to on how to use all their software. So, you know, that's one thing you can do too, is just go to the source, go to Adobe, and like learn how to do stuff like that. Because I still do that with like InDesign and other software that I don't know about. Like for me, if I could do it, I would just make photos and edit the photos, but I have to do other stuff too, just as a creator. I have to learn all these other things. But for me, just working with photos would be simple. But since I have to continually educate myself I use Adobe's Classrooms. And I think there are a few other websites that specialize in giving you like tutorials, you know, because I also went to school for some of this stuff. So then I learned a little bit there, but definitely searching like educational courses. Some you have to pay for, some are free, but it's, you know, it takes some work, you know. It's like that movie Good Will Hunting, when he's like, he's a genius and like, how did you learn this? He's like, I went to the library and I checked out books, and now he's like, he was brilliant. So, you know, things like that, figuring stuff out.
Neat. So we're almost at the end of the hour. One quick question I would like to ask you is how to, if any of us want to reach out to you and we have an idea, or if we have questions about our phone or anything like that, what's the best way to get in contact with you?
Yeah, just send me an email, singsinthetimber@gmail. It's so easy. It's just my last name, which is a fairly unique last name. Or you can, you know, on Instagram. I'm always on Instagram. It's just Sings in the Timber. Seriously, if you just Google Sings in the Timber, it just leads back to me. So it's my website. I do have a question thing, like a questionnaire on my website, but for some reason it always gets filtered to like in my email. So I always have to like manually check like that folder. It doesn't like just pop up. So the best way would just email me directly, bypass my website, or even a DM on Instagram. Sometimes I miss them because sometimes I get a lot of DMs and like it goes to that weird folder. Like I think like when you get to a certain amount of followers, you get extra stuff. So I have like a folder that I don't see unless I go to it and look. But yeah, I seriously just email me. Yeah.
Great. Well, thank you for your time, Adam, and thanks for entertaining our questions. And thank you, everyone, for helping participate. So
Yeah,
thank you
thanks
all.
everybody.
Have a good
Thank you.
day.
And I'm leaving the meeting now. Bye.